Hey, good Thursday morning, everybody. Welcome into the Volquest Mailbag Podcast. I'm Eric Kane alongside Austin Price, Brent Hubbs, and Rob Lewis. Got a lot of questions to get into. Appreciate you guys for submitting those, and we'll go ahead and get started with Gaterdawg. What two position groups do you feel will make a jump this year? AP, you want to kick us off?
I think it's going to be the offensive line, and I'm going to go. I'm kind of bullish on the receivers, so I think they're going to take a jump. I mean, I know there's a lot of unknowns on both of them. I don't know why I feel this way. I just think there's talent in those rooms, and I think the addition of Wendell Moy is going to be really, really good. I think you're going to see growth from Lance Heard from year 1 to year 2. I think David Sanders is exactly who everybody thought he was, and at the wide receiver position, I think given opportunity, Mike Matthews and Braylon Staley and even some of those freshmen are going to make plays.
Man, I don't know. I looked at this question, and it's hard to sit here and say. They're not going to be better at running back based on the production of Dylan Sampson a year ago. I do think there's a chance they're better at linebacker because I think Spillman's going to be better. I think Arian Carter will be better. So
That's what I thought immediately.
I would probably put linebacker on there. I like their talent at receiver, but you got a new quarterback. I don't know. We'll see. I think a linebacker, if they stay healthy, linebackers one for sure. I certainly can see what Austin is saying with the receivers from a talent standpoint. But
you're not with me on the offensive line.
I think they've got some talent, but I don't. And maybe I'm overvaluing Cooper. Maybe I've overvalued Cooper's impact in terms of what he does mentally and what he did mentally. I know physically. From a physical standpoint, I don't think there's going to be a drop off there. I do think they're going to be better at guard. I think that Wendell Moy is going to be better than they were at either guard position last year. But how much better is Lance Heard going to be? I don't know. I think David Sanders has all the talent in the world, but this is a guy who is learning to watch film for the first time in his life. Like there's a ton of raw talent there, but exactly how well does that translate? I think is going to be interesting. I think from a talent standpoint, yes. I don't know that means they take an automatic big jump out of the gate.
I just look at it in terms of this. Like, I don't think Spraggins assigned anywhere in the NFL, so it's not like you're going to just miss some great production there. And I like Javontes. John Campbell couldn't stay on the field, so. And then I think Jesse Perry is going to be a more talented, swing man than Dane Davis was. And I love Dane. So that's just where I'm at with it. I just feel like that they're going to be better. Are they going to be better against Syracuse? I don't know. But I think by the 1st of October, it's a more formidable and more productive unit than we saw a year ago. But you're right. The center position and Cooper's value and knowledge and ability to do what everybody needed him to do. Where is whoever's starting at center? Where is that? Because that is a great point. But I think just overall,
no question, talent. But where you put the talent with the experience, a guy who's got 2,000 snaps under his belt versus a guy who's got, no snaps in this offense or 100 snaps in this offense is, in terms of understanding everything, particularly with a quarterback behind them that's going to be brand new and doing this as well, is can they communicate all of the, are they going to give up a bunch of free runs because they miscommunicated something because they'd never seen it before? Even though that if you line them up one-on-one and you tell me Wendell Moy blocking versus Javonte Spraggins blocking, I'll take Wendell Moy 500 out of 500 times. But does he know what they're going to do when it's a twist and a stunt, or they're bringing, a hanging linebacker into a gap blitz and those types of things and all the rules? That's the part of it I'm just not sure how quickly they're going to be out of the gate that way.
Which goes back to what we've talked about ad nauseum, and we'll continue to talk about the unknowns. And it doesn't mean it's bad. It just means you just simply do not know.
Well, I've said it, Eric, and I'll continue to say it. They have a bunch of questions this year. I think they have better answers talent-wise to those questions than they've had in the past. It's just how quickly can those guys get up to speed?
Yeah, a lot of questions, a lot of talent. Just got to see kind of how they answer those and, who's plugged into where and what happens. But certainly you feel better about a lot of these lingering questions than you did a couple off seasons ago where you just didn't know anything about the offense, what it was going to look like, all that and more. Let's go to Sam Smith, 2233, baseball questions. Do you keep changing the lineup until you find a magic spark, or do you just let it ride the way it is? I mean, I've been thinking that Dean Curley should be moved down for the last couple of weeks. I know he was moved down to second last weekend. Tuesday night, he was moved down to fifth. I thought that looked good. I know that, lefty at the top of the order with Gavin Keelan and Andrew Fisher isn't what you want, but they get on base. I mean, Gavin Keelan's a contact machine, and Andrew Fisher walks more than anybody, I think, in the SEC. They get on base, and then Hunter Ensley's leading your team in RBI. So I like the lineup that we saw the other night on Tuesday, and of course, you implement Cannon Peebles in there, and probably Levi Clark is the designated hitter, that right-handed bat, or Chris Newstrom. So I would kind of ride with that this weekend against Vanderbilt.
Has Hunter Ensley become Tennessee's best contact / overall hitter over the last month in terms of being able to produce, and driving runs? He's been a single machine, it feels like, forever, especially going opposite field. It just feels like he swings the best stick to be, that guy when you get a couple of runners on. Agree?
I mean, yeah, right now, definitely. I mean, he's got 58 runs batted in on the year. Went through a little bit of a mini slump a couple weeks ago, but I mean, he's right back where you want him to be. I mean, in SEC play, it's not even close in terms of the RBI count and all that. He's hitting like 360 on the year. Yeah, I mean, Hunter Ensley, who is certainly nowhere near the most talented guy in the lineup, but he's that crafty veteran, been there, done that. He's played in this league, and he's producing. He's having a great year for Tennessee, for sure.
Hey, Eric, are you? Hold on a second. One other baseball question I have. I'm gonna follow up with Sam Smith here. This is Sam.
Is this from Brett _Hubs?
No, this is Sam Smith part C of this question. If somebody would have told you in March that we would have a question as to whether or not Tony Vitello still needs to be tinkering with a lineup in May, how surprising are you that they're not more settled, I guess is what I'm asking, and they haven't been settled seemingly for weeks with this lineup?
I would have been very surprised. I mean, you're talking, we're at the next to last series of the regular season. I think back at 2023, that Vanderbilt series on Friday night when everybody looks and thinks that's when everything changed, because it is. But I mean, that Vanderbilt series was April 20th through the 22nd, and they kind of figured it out, and they went with their set lineup the rest of the way. I mean, last year, it wasn't that hard, right? I mean, DH was an evolving door, but outside of that, I mean, they had a set lineup. You're typically about midway through SEC play at most, you have your 8 guys just going to roll out there, pretty much, and go to work every single game. And Tennessee's not there yet, and so I would have been very surprised. And I do think the Gavin Keelan injury had a whole lot to do with it. I mean, he was not in the field for a month. I do think that threw a big wrench into things, but also I don't think anybody envisioned Dean Curley going through the struggles defensively on the left side of the infield. But that's been apparent. So they've had to adapt a little bit, trying to find the best place for Dalton Bargo and all that. But I would have been very surprised. I do think that they are there right now. Keelan at short, Curley at second, Bargo in left, Manny Marin at third. But I think it took a little bit longer than what anybody would have wanted to kind of arrive at that destination. The next question here from Sam Smith. What record is needed down the stretch for a top 8 seed, or has that ship sailed? No, I don't think that ship has sailed at all. I mean, I keep hearing the number 18. 18 wins in the regular season. Win a series. Don't get swept. You got 2 series left. Win a series. Don't get swept. And then probably win one in Hoover. And I think that would be enough to get you to a top 8 seed. But you know how everything goes. There's a lot that goes into it. What happens with your team? What happens with other teams? Obviously, Tennessee's just focused on Vanderbilt right now. But I think 18 is that magic number. Win a series, don't get swept, and get one at Hoover. Sanubhatta. Any walk-ons that can contribute a wide receiver? Any chance a grad transfer is added late as depth? Any chance the staff is looking to bring back Nathan Leacock for depth purposes? Walk-ons, grad transfer, Nathan Leacock. Go.
Trey Weary, you never say never. Right now, nothing is set up. There are no names floating about, and no.
UTchampions. Last year, Tennessee had 4 players to the named to the All-SEC freshman team. The 2025 team will include how many, and who would those be? Rob Lewis. The All-SEC freshman team is always kind of a head-scratcher. Ethan Davis was on that last year. Okay. Jordan Ross was on there last year. Okay. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but anybody that jump off the page to you in terms of
David Sanders had better be on it for Tennessee's sake. I would say you pencil that one in, but it's, like you said, EC. I mean, it's a weird thing. It's kind of like, who gets on the field, but a meaningful one. Tennessee had better have David Sanders on it. I mean, that just jumps out.
Yeah, they better probably better have a freshman on there as well. A freshman receiver, I should say.
Yeah. Travis Smith, perhaps.
Be a factor in there. AP, who was the linebacker that played like 8 snaps and made that team when Dooley was a coach here from Alabama?
Oh, was it John Probst?
I think it was John. I mean, and I'm not picking on John Probst,
no.
But to the point is, there's a lot of guys that make this team that you're just like, and some of them are obvious, right? Ryan Williams, Boo Carter last year, and more Sellers, and
sometimes you're just searching who played 12 snaps a game.
Exactly, and that's essentially what I mean. Jalen Smith was an All-SEC freshman team member for Tennessee last year, and so it just is one of those deals where you're just searching sometimes. So
it's not overblown. Grant Ramey may not even write about it.
Oh, he'll write about it.
Well, I don't know.
Grant Ramey leads the way. He's writing about everything.
That's what
we should all take lessons from Grant Ramey writing about everything.
My point being, it's under the radar. Grant would maybe write. Grant probably would write about it.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those deals where it's not the most valuable, most prominent thing in the world for sure in terms of its impact. Doesn't mean much.
Nashville 615. How can Tennessee upgrade the football roster to have a comparable talent to Georgia, Bama, OSU, Texas, etc.? Is it paying it up through the portal or need to recruit at a top 5 level in high school recruiting?
Everything. You got to continue to recruit at a high level, and at the high school level, you've got to cherry pick in the portal. I don't think you can live in the portal, but I think you've got to cherry pick really good players out of the portal. Tennessee did not do that as much this year. Again, we've documented that, I think they shifted their focus on, like, hey, they put a bunch of money into last year's recruiting class. Those guys need to hit the field. Like, they don't need to sit over here and just, burn a hole in your pocket of, with money that's just sitting idly by. So, that's why, you have different players that have factored more in the spring than maybe in years past. And we'll see if they're able to factor in fall camp, because I think you're going to need them to. Obviously, receiver, as Hubs just pointed out, is one that, they have to play. Like, there's no other option. But, like, what happens with Isaiah Campbell? What happens with Ethan Utley? Do those guys factor prominently? Do they, sparingly fill in? Like, what does that look like? What about the freshmen at linebackers? What about, freshmen in the secondary? It'll be interesting.
Lfvol, before Matt's update earlier this week, others have noted a lack of football recruiting momentum and being near the top for a few of 150 types at this stage of the year. How much of a challenge is related to having to the have-not schools in NIL now being viable, given the changes versus the elite schools continuing to grow their NIL spending, perhaps more than us, or even conventional things like needing more really good recruiters?
I think Tennessee, has to be a better recruiting staff. I think that's fair. I think that other schools, now have money more Brent, and that plays into it. And then I think some of these schools are pre-spending their rev share money, and that's something Tennessee's not doing, to that degree. And, I think that, that could help a team like Tennessee once the portal opens in December versus, like a team like, let's say Vanderbilt, who's trying to go all in on Caden Harris, trying to go all in on Joel Wyatt and go that route.
Yeah. I mean, I think you have more schools in the playground of NIL right now than you've had in the past. Okay. But at the same time too, I think the big money schools, the ones who don't lose sleep at night over having enough resources, those people are continuing to spend money. They're going to spend more and more money. It's not going to go down. And I think that's the reality of this thing when you look at it, Rob, is there's nothing that says, hey, we're going to go back to a player a year from now and go, hey, we're cutting your salary. We're cutting what you make. And we know, and I wrote about this earlier in the week, there's as much effort being spent on finding ways to circumvent the rules that go into place as there is in trying to put rules in place. And so that's why it's going to be really hard to get a handle on, because for everything you think you're putting in place to guardrail it, somebody's finding a way to get around the guardrail, whether it's state law, whatever it is. And so I think you got to be better at all of it, right? You've got to have the funds, you've got to have relationships, you've got to recruit. I think everything is important because none of this is getting easier. It's not going to get, it's just not going to get easier moving forward. I know some people are hoping and thinking that it is, but man, I think you got to operate right now like it's not going to get cheaper and it's not going to get easier anytime soon.
I mean, I think Danny White has the 100% the right attitude. I mean, he is, you know, until somebody tells him stop or shows him where the, you know, the stop sign or the line in the sand is, he's full speed ahead. Like I think, you know, all your most forward-thinking athletic directors are. But I mean, I applaud the way Danny is about it. And I think he's, I mean, Hubbard, you know this as well as I mean, his attitude and forward thinking is not the way I think Tennessee's AD has usually acted, at least the past quarter century I've been.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're such a different time. It's also different. The one thing, Danny White's got a lot of the kind of old school approach to it of sort of regimented, like would like parameters, would like rules, and you know, would like guidelines and sort of likes it the older way, if you will. But what he is he's ultra competitive, Austin. I mean, he wants to win. And so whatever you got to figure out a way to win. I mean, he doesn't want to sit here and go, okay, we don't have the ability to deliver to our coaches the way that we need to deliver to the coaches. Now, where's that line? All those types of things. You can always question, can you be in everything school? All that stuff I get. But at the same time, too, at the end of the day, he is a highly competitive AD, which I think is a good thing for Tennessee fans because that's allowed them and puts them in a position that they can go and do what they should be doing to assemble rosters the way they can. That doesn't mean it's unlimited money, but I don't think suddenly they're going to go backwards and try to go just real cheap on everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think how aggressive can one be is the biggest question. I mean, like, you know, we hear the numbers out there about Texas. You know, there's numbers out there about several schools. You know, how competitive does Tennessee want to be in that world versus, you know, being competitive in basketball versus being competitive in baseball? How do you be competitive in all of them? You know, maybe you can. I don't know. You know, I guess time will tell. But, you know, I mean, Danny, you hit the nail on the head. Danny wants to win. Danny doesn't want to lose because the moment Tennessee loses, then Danny White loses. I mean, like, you know, I mean, he's come in and Tennessee's won in all ththese sports since he's been here, and he hired Kim Caldwell, and she's got a lot of juice, and he hired Josh Heupel, and he's won 10 games, you know, and 30 total over the last 3 years, 10 games twice in the last 3 years, beat Alabama twice, beat Florida twice. And that was a Danny White hire. And so, like, the moment that the sports started to take a little bit of a downturn, then that, you know, there's a rub there for the AD. And so right now the rub is good, right? I mean, he gets all the praise when Tennessee's winning. So he wants to continue to win.
Yeah, you don't have $280 million in revenue if you're not winning, if you're not playing for championships, and that's just the bottom line. If you're not good in sports and in the key sports, you don't have a $280 million budget. Period.
WrongHanded has got a basketball question. Now that the basketball roster is mostly set, it's time for the annual "Is this basketball roster good enough offensively to win it all?" question, and go. The last 8 championships have been top 10 offenses. And then he puts in parentheses, we know that Rick could field a good enough defense with the 5 of you guys playing. Hubs is hip, AP and golf shoes, and Peter Millar and all. Rob Lewis, offensively, is this team good enough to win a national championship?
I mean, they're not even all here yet on campus. So
I need to know right now.
I'm going to pump the brakes on that. I mean, they should. I mean, I have no way to know that, but I don't want dismiss the question. I mean, it feels to me like they filled their holes pretty well. I mean, despite all the wailing and gnashing of teeth from fans when they didn't sign 8 guys the first week the transfer portal was open. I mean, I feel like they did pretty well in addressing things. And Jacoby Gillespie is, I mean, to me, probably the biggest piece of the puzzle. I know Coach Barnes and the staff are really excited about Jalen Carey and having a low post option offensively for really the first time in a while, or somebody they feel really good about that's polished in a low post. But I mean, do they have a Chaz Lanier? Do they have a Dalton Connect? Way too early to say that, but I mean, I think they've got a lot of good pieces.
You just wait till they bring back Ziegler and Gainey, and then Zach Kent. I hear he's coming back. Zach Kent.
What's interesting to me about it's about getting hot at the right time, and it's about playing your best at the right time. I mean, crazy things happen. The national champions came to Knoxville. Tennessee was depleted by 2 roster members, and they held that team to 44 points, right? And then Florida gets hot down the stretch of the season, and their backcourt goes bananas. The one guard, carries that team through a couple of wins in the NCAA tournament. They're scoring a bunch of points, and it's they're a big offensive team, and they were a big offensive team the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season. It's about getting better. It's about being hot at the right time. I mean,
look at Arkansas.
Well, yeah. I mean, and listen, Florida was a high-scoring team, and they won the national championship game 65-63 because they grinded it out against a really good defensive team. Rob, I think you've got to be able to do everything. Okay, I mean, I think you've got to be able to score on nights where your defense doesn't travel as well as it should. But at the end of the day, it's about matchups. I mean, that's just it's the postseason is all about a matchup, is what it is, and you're trying to figure out a way to win those matchups. I mean, they got to score. Tennessee has to score. I don't think this team has to score 85 points a game to be, if they do with the defense they play, then yeah, they'll be the favorite to win the whole thing. But it's just about playing your best basketball at the right time, and the right time being the last 3 weeks of the season.
13 Marietta Vol. Do you think baseball should try to schedule harder in the non-conference? I can't help but wonder if this team could have benefited from being a part of more uncomfortable situations prior to conference play. Yes, I've been saying that for years. I think Tennessee should absolutely schedule harder in non-conference. Now, albeit they won a national championship last year, it's been a very successful program. So the way Tony Vitello has gone about scheduling has been just fine. But I mean, look around the SEC last night, just for example, right? Indiana State's actually a really good non-conference team, as was Northern Kentucky a week ago. I mean, those two teams are regional teams a season ago. But Florida played USF, Missouri played Kansas, Vanderbilt played Louisville. Why can't Tennessee play Louisville on a Tuesday night? Alabama was at a ranked Troy. I know that's not how it always works out, but that's how it is this year. Texas A&M played Houston. So, and again, I know a lot of this is regionally. Like, it's easier for Florida to play a lot of, really good teams in the midweek because there's a lot of good teams down in Florida. Same with Texas A&M and Texas and all that. But for the most part, to answer your question, absolutely. I think Tennessee needs to be challenged more in the midweek, and I've thought that for years now.
I think they've got to play in the preseason. I think their pre-conference schedule's got to be you got to put guys in uncomfortable situations in your pre-conference schedule.
You're not getting anything out of hosting Hofstra.
No, I mean run rule wins, and I'm not saying that because you lose 3 outs or you lose 6 outs or 9 outs or whatever. I'm just saying you need to bring some of these young relievers in, and they need to be in high pressure situations. When you bring a guy in for a batter, or you bring, you pitch 3 pitchers in an inning just to get them a few pitches, when you're up 9-1, I mean, there's nothing there. Like you need to put some guys into some high pressure situations. So I'd like to see them schedule better pre-conference as much as I would midweek during conference play. For me, it's more about what you do in the pre-conference schedule to build this team and put them through some adversity. Particularly I think this team more so than last year needed that because of the youth that they're playing with, and they just have not been in those types of situations.
Remember last year when they went to Arizona, Eric, and they went to, who was it they played out there in Arizona? It's like the home team, and it was like a ridiculously raucous crowd.
That was 2023. They went to Grand Canyon, and it was massive.
Okay, yeah, perfect. Last year, this year, or 2 years ago. all around the same point is like I think that team benefited from that.
Yeah, I agree. Went to Arizona, and that was unique because they actually played, like I said, at Grand Canyon's home venue. But I love those pre-conference tournaments they go to Texas or to Phoenix or whatever. And when I saw the question, I just immediately thought midweek. But that's a great point, Brent.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more.
Well, I don't disagree with you on the midweek.
Yeah, but like Hofstra, you get nothing out of that. The St. Bonaventure, you get nothing out of it.
Somebody like that.
Yeah.
So what?
Like Xavier, somebody like that, you get nothing.
Yeah, I mean, just something. It's not been good enough in my opinion. Vol and Rye, Austin and Matt, from my lens, I haven't heard any great deal of news lately on football. Austin has said that the staff is in weekly contact with him, but Baden-Vol syndrome does make me worry that too quiet is never a good thing. Is there any need for concern with all the Nico BS and the unproven wide receiver room dialogue?
Yeah, football, FB is Faison Brandon.
That's what I was going to say.
It's not football on that.
No, that would make more sense.
Yeah.
Faison Brandon there.
And our good Vol friends in Rhode Island, they know how to keep up with Faison Brandon. And, Faison is constantly talking to Tennessee. The plan is for him to be here for A65 Live in a couple of weeks. He'll be back here for his official visit. Other schools are going to continue to swing at him, right? But, I mean, he's saying and doing everything you're supposed to do to be the leader of the class. I mean, he's constantly talking to Tyreek King. He's constantly talking to Tristan Keys, trying to get him to make sure he gets here for an official visit to give Tennessee a shot. Again, they're saying and doing all the right things. But, again, you have to continue to recruit him like he's not committed because he's not signed. And so you've got to stay on top of it.
Would make more sense now that I see the other half of the question. Confidence level that he signs in December.
It's okay, man. You're not sleeping very much. It's all good. It took me a few times last night to figure it out as well. So you're good.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. I still feel like he signs with Tennessee. Again, there's nothing been to this point. Now, when he shows up on another school's campus, that's when my concern would get, raised quite a bit. To this point, he's not done that. So until he does, my confidence is still high. The moment he steps on foot on someone else's campus for a visit, then I would say there's reason for concern.
Seems pretty obvious that Danny White is really tuned in to the current landscape of college sports, as you guys were speaking on a moment ago. How aligned is he and Heupel when it comes to NIL and the system Tennessee uses to value players and create deals? Alternatively, can you all speak to how well you think Josh has done managing the overall roster at Tennessee during a pretty chaotic time?
Well, I think the one thing you have to understand is we are not very far removed from administrators having no idea what was going on in roster assembly from an NIL standpoint. Not very far removed at all. So really administrators, and correct me if I'm wrong here, AP, but really they're just starting to get into the nuts and bolts of what the roster spreadsheet looks like. I mean, there's some things that, they knew some stuff, but they didn't know everything all across the board. So I think administration is trying to probably get their hands on kind of what this has been like, and it's probably been a little more eye-opening than they initially thought that it was, and kind of how all those things work. So I think it's a growing relationship between the two in terms of the alignment and the conversations, because I don't think I know those weren't conversations they had a couple of years ago when it was separation of church and state, if you will.
Yeah, I think too, it just continues to morph and continues to grow. What you spent on football 2 years ago versus what you spent last year versus what you're spending this year versus what you're going to spend next year are all four different numbers. And so, I think that's something that these ADs, including Danny White, have to evolve and adapt to. Is as much as some of the ADs would like to think they're putting some of the toothpaste back in the tube, it just doesn't feel that way. I think you're going to have collective bargaining. You're going to have a lot of serious things happen before you get to that point to where it really levels off. Right now, I still think it's really, really loose. The guardrails are very low. Whatever they're putting on it. And, again, I'll continue to reiterate the old Jurassic Park line. Life finds a way. So do college football coaches and college basketball coaches when it comes to making sure they land a player.
SmokeyGray and Rocky Top Mock have very similar questions. Can the tight end combination of Kitzelman and Ethan Davis be the missing link in our passing game? Can Davis be a game changer if he gets more consistency? And the other question that was very similar, essentially, can Kitzelman and Davis be that missing link while Tennessee's young wide receivers kind of come along slowly, potentially?
Man, I feel like Davis has to make a big jump. I mean, what do you guys think? He had 12, 13 catches last year. I mean, I feel like there's a lot more meat on that bone. I mean, Kitzelman, I don't know how much bigger of a year he could have. I mean, what do you have? 22, 20, he had 20-something catches last year and was in the end zone a lot. But, man, I think Ethan Davis has just scratched the surface.
Yeah, I mean, I think Davis has to take a step. We've been talking about that, and probably unfairly for him because, I mean, he was just named to the all-freshman team, but it seems like he's been around for a long period of time. But, yeah, I mean, I think that he's got to take a step there. I don't know about missing link. I mean, in that type, I mean, they've just got to hit some of these bigger plays, and they've got to execute in the red zone better. I mean, I think what's fascinating, when you look at it is a year ago, Nico threw for 300 yards less than what Hendon Hooker threw for in his first season in the offense in 2021. I think there's about 300 yards difference. Now, the difference is the touchdown passes, right? And the big splash plays. They just didn't have those. So, I don't know that the tight end suddenly means they're throwing a bunch of explosives, AP.
I would tell you, I went back and watched the Alabama game the other night. I was bored. I was laying in bed, couldn't go sleep. I mean, the number of deep balls he missed in that game. Like, if you have a quarterback that just hits half of them, how many big plays do they have in that football game? So, I mean, I think the big plays were still there. Mm-hmm. They just didn't connect on them. So, like, whether it's Merklinger or Aguilar or George or whoever, like, if you can just be a little more consistent on hitting on those, like, what does the offense all of a sudden change to? Because when you can hit those big plays, the defense has to adjust off some of that to try to prevent that. And then that just opens up the running attack even more.
The two games where they really, really missed on those deep balls were Alabama and Florida. Now, I believe Florida, Nico missed a couple in Florida, don't get me wrong, but Florida, I think, like Chaz Nimrod, I think Squirrel, like, I don't think his receivers helped him out at all either. So, it was a combination of –
It was a collective effort.
But those two games specifically really bad because there was a lot of points that they left off the scoreboard for sure.
Particularly in the first half. Early points that would have changed the game a lot.
Yeah. Dhale, with the new offensive line additions and the growing of the offensive line in general, do you think that they have a shot at getting – to 3,200 rushing yards as a team this year? I'm going to say no because they rushed for the most in modern history last year, which was second all time in program history. And they were really good running the football, whereas I think they can get better at pass pro. But also you had Dylan Sampson in there and you had a veteran group. So they were really good in that regard last year, Brent, at rushing for 2,900. I'm going to say no, but it doesn't mean that they're going to be bad.
No, I don't think they need to rush. If they're rushing for 3,200 yards, that probably means the passing game's not morphed into what you want it to morph into. So I'm going to say no. I think they'll run the ball well. They always seemingly run for over 2,500 yards. I think that'll continue to be the case. They'll be a good running football team based on what they do schematically. But I would say the under on 3,200 yards.
Volken wants to know, what was the difference between Larry Johnson and the guys behind him, like Jesse Perry, Warren Bennett, Jeremias Heard, and that had Johnson competing to start? Was it talent, strength, experience, knowledge of the system, some combination of the above? Why? What separated Larry Johnson from a Jesse Perry specifically, or a Bennett Warren?
Jesse Perry was playing at guard in the spring because they felt like they needed to put him there as a swing guy, and you had 3 tackles. And Bennett Warren is continuing to progress. Going to have to progress a lot more now. Jesse Perry gets thrown back to tackle. And the Jeremias Heard can't stay healthy. So that's the biggest reason why Larry Johnson was kind of where he was.
Larry Johnson played an entire half of football at Oklahoma.
Yep.
And he found a way to win the football game. So there's a comfort level. Guy knew what to do. He had some tread on the tire. He had tape, so to speak. With Jesse Perry, everybody talks about the potential. With Heard, everybody talks about how pretty he looks. First guy you want coming off the bus. And Bennett Warren is the guy who is still kind of playing catch up for, to be honest with you, and is a potential guy. Larry Johnson was not a great player. He was not a great tackle, so to speak. That's why most of us felt like David Sanders was going to pass him at some point in time early in the season or in the preseason. But he's a guy you had lined up with in the SEC, and you had, I won't say thrive, but you had probably done better than just survive as well. He had been okay. And so because he was okay, there was some comfort there in knowing that you could slide him in if you needed him because he had the experience factor there. And that's why there was a security blanket, if you will, a little bit with Larry Johnson.
If the 50-year rule kicks in and players can return, what's the pecking order given that only Chaz is a likely NBA pick? Rob Lewis, 3 spots, 5 seniors, and there are some on the staff that encourage them to move on no matter what the available spots. I mean, Rob, I would imagine that a lot of these guys will have no interest in coming back first and foremost.
I'd say the interest would be mutual, like
yeah,
both ways. I mean, once you write that check for Jacoby Gillespie, I mean, Zakai's not coming back. I mean, once you write that check for Jacoby Gillespie, that's your point guard. No chance on Igor. I mean, once you sign Jalen Carey and bring back what you got, they would welcome Jordan Gainey back, I'm sure, but that's the only. If AP's 5th rule passes this summer, that'd be the guy.
I think the one mystery to me is, and just because we haven't heard anything, is and I'm with you because you've got Gillespie, but where is Zakai Ziegler's plan? Like what's he work? I mean, I'm sure he's working out somewhere right now, but he hasn't got a G League invite, right, to the combine deal that we've seen. Like, where does he factor into everything would be? And I think Zakai is probably ready to move on, with the fanfare that he had and leaving and all those types of things. But just kind of what's out there in front of him next in basketball, I think is pretty interesting for me with him. I don't think he's coming back, but I think it's interesting to see kind of where his next step is.
No, right? I mean, I think you would put that to bed. I mean, Jacoby Gillespie and Zakai Ziegler would not be on the same basketball team. I'd be stunned, but I mean, I think you'll see him in the G League. You see him play somewhere in Europe, G League. I mean, just because he didn't get an invite to that combine, I wouldn't say he doesn't show up there. But I would be stunned if Zakai's not playing, professionally for the next few years. And down the road, coaching, I'd be really surprised if that guy's not involved in the game some way, mentoring younger people.
And Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was Chaz and Jemai that got invites, right?
Chaz got an invite to the NBA. Jemai,
okay, so the G League scouting
G League, Jemai and Igor.
Gotcha. Zjsvols Vols, do we have any football commits before official visits start? And for Matt's top 10 prediction to come true, which targets do we need to land, and which big fish do we have the best shots to land?
Yeah, I think they will get a commitment before official visits start. I think Tennessee continues to be, in a really good spot for a guy like Zach Groves out of the mid-state. And then, I think Tennessee's in a good spot for Savion Hyder. I think they're still swinging for a guy like Kristen Keys, Darius Gray. He might be here for A65 Live. If that happens, Tennessee's hit rate for kids when they've made it to A65 Live and then in turn been for official visits a few weeks later has been pretty good. And so, I think those are the names you're watching to see who makes it in. Does Darius Gray make it in? Does he not? Does Savion Hyder make it in? Does he not? Not that it's an end-all, be-all, because some kids naturally just have family functions around Memorial Day weekend. But I do think that the chances of landing a kid does go up a little bit when you're able to get them to town. And so, that's kind of what I'm watching. But Matt's right. Like, you're going to have to win some of those battles to get in the top 10. You got to win Darius Gray. You've got to win, the Rouse kid from the state of Georgia. You've got to win some of those if you're going to get in that top 10 realm and hold on to what you already have.
AndrewHimmelman wants to know, what's your favorite part of UTK's campus? Austin?
It's a great question.
The G3 parking garage.
now that they've only allowed employees to park there.
I don't.
G5. We park in G5.
That's not G5, not G3. I mean, here's my thing. I don't see much at campus. I know they're building that dorm like it's like it's Lincoln Logs or Legos over there. Next to McClung Museum, that thing's going up faster than anything than you've ever seen. But And we had to park for the orange and white game on the back side of the hill. I can't tell you the last time I've seen that part of campus.
The last orange and white game.
Yeah. I mean, I've never. I mean, I don't see those. I don't see that many places on campus. So I don't.
What the great Ric Flair, did it bring a tear to your eye, Hubs, when you were on the backside of the hill, or was that just the steam coming up from the man?
It did not. I mean, I miss down under in the old UC.
Yeah, you went bowling. Well, you can go bowling on campus now too, over there at the new football complex.
Yeah.
You a 9-pound ball guy? What you got? 9.5, 10?
Oh, you got to go 10, 11 pounds on that thing, AP.
I don't know, Hubs. You get a little force back there with that hip of yours, that newly constructed hip. You just throw.
I'm gonna just push mine down and hope the bumpers are on the side like it is for the little kids. How about that?
Bonus question from Eric_Kane. Austin Price, what is your favorite part of game day traditions at Tennessee?
I love to watch the band salute.
I knew, yeah, that's why I asked you. You always say, "Hey, let's watch this, man. Let's just hear. I just love this one. Let's watch it."
Fine, all that. I enjoy that. There's a pageantry to that. It's more like, all the little kids get fired up to watch the players walk down, but I think the older people, they enjoy the band saluting the hip.
Yeah,
and I'm old now, as my wife tells me and my kids tell me about my gray hair every day.
AJ Lewis 0527 week 1 versus Syracuse, over under 45 rushes by the offense. I'll take the over, as I think we really lean on the running back room and the O-line. We lost experience up front, but really feels like we might be more talented and athletic up front. I love Spraggins, but he did not play well last year at all. So over under 45 rushing attempts week 1 against Syracuse.
Give me over.
Rob's taking the over?
I'll take over.
Sure. I don't know. I mean,
45 seems a little high, doesn't it?
Honestly, I haven't thought about it to that. I mean, depends on where you think you are at receiver. How does Syracuse play you? What's Syracuse's weakness? I don't know what their secondary looks like. I don't know what their pass rush looks like. I haven't dove into it. I understand what he's saying. He's saying you're not going to throw it as much because you don't think you're there in your passing game, so you're going to line up and run it a whole lot more. And again, I think part of that's how you're going to play it. They went to Charlotte last year with a young quarterback to take on NC State, and the plan was, hey, if they're not going to stay in this defense that they're in, and they're going to give us a bunch of one-on-one opportunities outside when we start running the football effectively. And Dave Doran said, you know what, I'll take death by 1,000 paper cuts. And so what did Tennessee do? They just kept running it. So part of it depends on how the defense plays, and you're dictated that way by how does Syracuse plan to try to slow Tennessee down.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I agree with the poster in terms of Tennessee won't air it out or anything and lean on the run game. I still think 45 is just a bit too high, so that's why I'll take the under. Athrun's got a couple. First one, would we be willing to take a kid with measurables from D2? D2 again, I think you meant the D3, D2, NAI, if we want a wide receiver badly enough.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think if there's one there that makes sense, then, Tennessee would, gladly take a look at it.
Hey, there's a safety at Carson Newman that just signed with the Chiefs, so there's talent down there. They chose D2. That was the slogan. It's like, I chose D2. No, you didn't. If you wanted to go play D1, you go play D1 if you could. Could Colton Hood be a surprise find like McCoy was last season? Not saying is impactful, but impactful all the same.
Well, I mean, I think he's done more at Colorado a year ago than McCoy had done at Oregon State the year before in terms of just overall play. Now, again, McCoy was, did win some all Pac-12 stuff. That's, I don't know if it's a good find. I think Tennessee viewed him as soon as he went in as an elite player and someone who's got 3 years of eligibility left that started out in this league before he went to Colorado at Auburn. And so to be able to get him back closer to home gives them depth. It also gives McCoy a little bit of a buffer. You don't have to rush back. I think this is a win-win-win for everybody.
Here's my question, guys. Brent, Austin, what's the versatility there? Is it just corner, or would he allow a guy like Jalen McMurray to free up and go play some star if Boo's being used all over the place?
Or he could play some star.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think his most natural place and where he's most comfortable is playing corner. So I think that's probably where he's at. But it does, I mean, the thing about this, and I wrote this on Wednesday, I guess it was, is his arrival gives you flexibility back there.
Yep.
And so Jalen McMurray can stay as a corner. He can be your third, fourth corner and your rotation there, but he can also be the guy that rotates at star.
Yeah.
Because if Boo's going to play special teams and offense, Boo might have to get spelled a little bit on defense from time to time. So you can go, hey, third series, McMurray, you're going to play corner, and fourth series, you're going to play star. And all of a sudden you look up and Jalen McMurray's played 20 more snaps a game than he was playing a year ago. It also means a guy like Caleb Beasley, to me, can now firmly entrench himself in a competition to be the starting safety with Edris Farouk. Okay. And if he's not the starter, he's a rotator. He's your first safety off there. Whereas if you were going to try to split him between safety and star, man, that would be pretty taxing on a young player that way. So I just think it gives you a lot of flexibility, or more flexibility at all three spots.
Would it be the worst thing in the world if the Vols are knocked out of hosting a regional and have to travel to one? Might be a good wake-up call to help them refocus. I mean, I think they're woken up. I think they all understand that, losing 4 or 5 series and 3 straight's not good enough. So I don't think they're sleepwalking or anything. But to your point, I mean, not this team, but this program went on the road in 23 and won at Clemson, went on the road and won in Hattiesburg, and then went to Omaha. I do think that this team likes playing on the road this year. I know that they lost it to LSU a couple weeks ago, but team's got series wins at Ole Miss. Team's got series wins at South Carolina. I think this team kind of likes going on the road. They did a really good job in Houston earlier this year. So I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world, but end of the day, I mean, I was talking with, I think it was Charlie on the porch last week, like, you be fooling yourself to say you wouldn't want to play at home, just given everything's a comfort level. You're sleeping in your same bed. You're, if there's a delay, you're not under the bleachers. You're literally, playing Xbox in the team room or whatever. Like, you want to be at home. But if they do have to go on the road for supers, or I don't think they'll go on the road for regionals, but if that is the case, I think they'll be okay. It's a team that's comfortable playing away from home, I believe. Couple more here. Let's go to J. Rob J. It's something I've wondered about for a while now, and you guys brought it up a week ago. What are the current rules in place as far as the players now having representation, such as agents, affecting what they can do or can't do, declaring for the draft and other things? For as long as I can remember, when a player hired an agent, his amateur status was over, and he could not return to college athletics. I can remember Dante Starworth reportedly wanting to come back his final year, but couldn't, because he hired an agent.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's over. I mean, I don't think an agent matters anymore, because everybody's got an agent. I think it's about, do you submit your paperwork in the NFL? Because once you submit your paperwork, you can't pull it back out. The NBA's got their rules that they've had for years, Rob, that you could go in, as long as you didn't hire an agent, you could pull your name back out ahead of time of the draft. You couldn't stay in it and wait and see where you were drafted. But the agent factor to me is no longer an issue.
High school kids have agents.
Yeah, so it's not a thing anymore.
Not at all.
You don't worry about getting suspended for a game because you had dinner with an agent during your senior year, right? Or during your.
Oh, you remember? I'd forgotten that was even a thing.
Yeah,
you had spies at the Copper Cellar on the strip.
I mean, and so those days are over. Now you still have the rules of officially declaring, but the agent part of it is just not a part of that anymore. It can't be.
Bud_Fox will end here. He's got a couple of questions. Number 1, make a bold prediction for who starts at quarterback versus Syracuse. I think given experience, albeit not at this level, and I understand he's got a long way to go in terms of teammates, staff, playbook, all that and more, but my prediction would be Joey Aguilar. What say you guys?
Yeah, to me, based on experience, that's where I would go right now. Again, I think it's going to be a competition. How does he go about things with his teammates? What advantage does Jake Merklinger and George take advantage of here? I mean, who puts in all the work? I do think it's a competition. I don't think Joey's coming in on a white horse to save the day.
Yeah, I agree with that.
He's automatically handed the keys. But I think when you look at where he's at in his career versus where the other two are in their careers at this point, I mean, Aguilar makes the most sense. I mean, they went after a guy with experience for a reason.
Rob, AP?
I'll go chalk. Same as Hubbard, just the old experienced guy.
Is that bold though? I mean, like if you're picking the guy that everybody expects to start, is it bold?
True.
I think he's bold by saying make a pick and not pull a Hubs, dance around and not make a stand on anything.
Well, then yes, I would go with Joey.
I think that's what he means by bold. I don't think he means by like an outside the box prediction.
But picking,
give me the kid from Northview.
yeah, I was going to say, if you pick George McIntyre or somebody else, that would be considered bold. Yeah. Who would you guess? Last one here. Who would you guess is the fastest kid on the football team, excluding Peyton Lewis from this question? Know that EA Sports had him as the fastest player on last year's team. So outside of Peyton Lewis, who is the fastest player on Tennessee's team?
That's a great question, and I do not know the answer.
I don't know the answer. I thought about this last night. Like, I wouldn't say Boo Carter. Boo Carter is quick.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't say he's the fastest. He ain't slow. I'll tell you that. But
where does
Brent, I don't know.
Does Ricky Gibson factor into that equation? I think Ricky Gibson's one of the fastest guys on this team, right? AP, would you put Ricky Gibson in that conversation?
I don't know. I've just not been into the whole like.
Come on, AP, make a bold prediction, man. Let's go.
I'm like, hey, who wins a foot race? Stop that.
Not the 3-legged race, the foot race.
Trying to think of some of those guys they have back there at kick return, like Ricky, maybe Jalen McMurray. I don't know, because I mean, it would always be. It would always be.
I'm going to throw Ricky Gibson into the equation. That's my only pick. I'm not saying he's the fastest, but I'm putting him in the conversation. How about that?
I like it. We can say that across the board. That is Volquest pick, courtesy of Brent Hubs. All right. Appreciate you guys for sending in all your questions this week here for the Volquest Mailbag Podcast. We did it every single Thursday right here on the website. If you are listening and watching this podcast, thank you. But if you're not a member of the site, a subscriber to the site, just the tip of the iceberg. We got notes on the Journal's quarters every single day, Tennessee football recruiting, transfer portal. It's a big week coming, or a big month coming up in terms of high school recruiting, OV setting up for the summer. A65 Live, all that and more is coming up here towards the end of the month. Tennessee baseball is going on right now. Of course, basketball still assembling. All that and more right now. Every single day notes on the Journal's quarters at volquest.com. So come join us, $1 for 7 days. You can try us out. And if you like us, you can stay. If not, well, you can try us again later. We appreciate you. Appreciate you guys for joining us here on the Volquest Mailbag Podcast. We'll be back on this weekend for baseball coverage and next Tuesday for the Volquest Podcast. All that and more right here at volquest.com.